Welcome, and I'm having some problems, so I'll show you. I'm trying to get my clock synced. So this one says I'm a couple minutes late, but I was watching this one, and this one says I've got 5 minutes to go. Trying to get the two of them synchronized, and I know now which one I need to watch. But anyhow, just trying to get them synchronized. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to the Wednesday night nonfiction prepper book club. And if you're new to us, welcome. Make sure that you subscribe. We do this every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. I apologize for my cough. I've been to pulmonologists, ENTs, allergists. Let me see. ENT, allergy, pulmonology. Everywhere. Finally got an email from a gastroenterologist who did surgery on me 8 years ago. And I was asking if I've developed a wicked cough with hacking and very productive. And I said, yes. So we now know what the cause of it is. And so it probably is going to require some adjustment to the surgery that he did. But until then, we have to live with the cough and the overproduction of mucus and everything else. And so that's just the way it is. Let's hope that I get it fixed before you know what happens. Speaking of you know what happens, let me share something with you. Present, share screen. Share screen. And so this came out the other day, and I hope that everybody has seen it. Let me see if I can get this down here. I'm using my mouse, so that sometimes bumps me off the internet. And so here we go. Have you seen this one? So this is from FEMA. I'm going to go to that site where this is. So it's alert number India-011325- public service announcement. January 13th, 2025. Threat of copycat attacks after ISIS-inspired vehicle attack in New Orleans. We'll just do the summary. I'll leave the link in the show notes. I'll put it in here. I'll put it here so you can go to it and just keep it so you can read it immediately afterwards. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, and Department of Homeland Security, DHS, are issuing this public service announcement to highlight a potential public safety threat from violent extremists in response to the New Year's Day attack in New Orleans, Louisiana. As with any potential threats to the United States, we will coordinate with our state and local law enforcement partners to ensure that they have the resources and information necessary to keep our communities safe. So I'll put the link here, and that way everybody can go to it and copy it and save it and do what you need to with it. But anyhow, that was put out Monday morning. And so just beware that DHS and FBI are saying that there are possibilities of some terrorist attacks to happen here in the United States in the very near future. Okay, let me wet my whistle after coughing. I think I saw Triple G come in. Hello, Triple G, welcome. Tammy Harder, Little Lone Prepper. Theoxerus, of course, was early, as was Butch Grays. We were talking. I expect to see Sue Me here shortly. She just got off work, 45-minute drive home. And the weather up in Canada is not that great. So, but she let me know that she got home safely. So she should be on here almost any minute. One that I haven't seen in quite a while is Maggie. I'm hoping to see her here again pretty soon. We kind of miss her, but we do have a great crowd. Thank you all for being here. Let's go ahead and take a look at this book. Fantastic little book. I like Carlos Mack's way of doing things. I do want to remind you that we are going to be doing book 7 of the Stephen Smith Stonemont series, and that's going to be our last Thursday fiction book club. So this will be the last Thursday of this month. and make sure you get it and read it, and things will be great. Let me see if I can't get the doorknob and window out of the frame here. So, oh, Tammy. So anyhow, I just recently had another. You start falling apart if you don't buy the warranties when you're younger, at your age. When you get to be my age, then you start falling apart. And I got a note from my doctor, and he and I were talking. And so yes, and Sue Me has recommended some things, but I think I'm gonna start taking 1 teaspoon of cod liver oil every day. So that's just one of those things that happens to you when you get older. You got to start taking some crap that may not taste that good for you. Okay, let's get into this. Tonight we're doing chapter 3. So it's stockpiling techniques and personalized preparedness strategies to safeguard your home. I have, as long as I've been doing this, I have never seen this before. Fantastic, absolutely love it. He comes up with a acronym HALT, and that's humidity. Humidity, air, light, and temperature are the 4 things that can damage your food storage. So just remember HALT. Keep your food away from high humidity, so store it in a dry place. Air, make sure it's sealed, and we'll get into that. L, light, in a dark place, and then T, temperature. Keep it temperature controlled. It's okay if it freezes and thaws, but you just don't want to keep it out in the heat too long. Hello, Darlene. Congratulations to Darlene. Darlene got her general ham license here 2 or 3 weeks ago. It was the first Saturday in January. She upgraded to general. Congratulations, Darlene. Looking forward to chatting with you if we can both do NVIS. I did get my radio in Monday. So I had ordered an ICOM IC7300. Power supply is due. Well, I can show you the power supply. I just ordered it, and it should be here tomorrow. I think I still have it up. Let me see your share screen. Amazon. Where's Amazon? My Enphase, mail, Enphase, expert server, Amazon. There we go. So, no, I don't still have it up here. Never mind. Gosh, excuse me. And maybe we should probably, if it bothers you, please let me know, and we'll shut this down until after I get the surgery to correct this cough. Darlene's ahead of me. She's already up on the air. And all my buddies are not. Or all my buddies are, I am not. So, yeah. Okay. Kaylin, good evening. I'm sorry we missed you Sunday. I will probably miss you again this coming Sunday. We have some friends, and we've been going over to a different town. It's about an hour, 45 minutes northeast, and it's a Catholic church that has bingo. And so we were on the road while you were doing your live. But for those of you who are into MREs, Kaylin does MRE reviews every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. Central live. And so just make sure you catch up with her on that. Some of the things that he talks about: make sure you use oxygen absorbers, keep it in some sort of an airtight container. What I do is a lot of times I will use these bottles, and they're good for about a year, and then you have to reseal them. But I can poke a hole in the top, and then there's a flap that goes over it, and you can vacuum suck everything out. You can also do the same thing with canning jars. And so that's what I'll do a lot of mine with. I do have some Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers that I will use. But really, most of my stuff, except for legumes and beans and rice and things like that, most of my stuff that I buy is going to be pretty much freeze dried. So I don't. Hello, Shenanigans. Welcome. Good to see you. So I don't have to worry that much about preparing my own. But this is for those who do. Number one, use oxygen absorbers. Number two, make sure you do a rotation. We were just in the pantry the other day going through our chicken stock, and we've decided to have 2 different lines of canned chicken, actually 3 different lines, because we're going to have 2 lines for humans, and that we're going to buy our Costco chicken for us to eat, and then we don't want to spend that much for the girls, for our Chihuahuas, so we buy them the Walmart canned chicken. And so now we're going to, instead of having everything by date of purchase and coming forward, because you have to move some of the newer Costco out of the way, or some of the older Costco out of the way in order to get to the older Walmart to feed to the Chihuahuas. So we're just going to redo that whole shelf and have 2 lines of Costco chicken and 1 line of Walmart chicken, so that we can take care of the girls. They've been having some bowel issues, and so we feed them. When that happens, we go on to a rice and chicken diet, and we'll use our rice cooker with some chicken bouillon and some chicken, and make the normal rice, and then we'll feed them to them. And so we'll probably end up doing the same thing in a post-apocalyptic world. It goes into Mylar bags, food-grade buckets, glass jars. Talks about pouches and foil packets. I want to go back to these food-grade buckets. Now, they do have, if you go to some of the pet stores, I'll show you. I've got mine right here. I marked this page in the book, and I'll show you mine. So, of course, these are food grade, and it's got a screw top. I should do a short on this, but what we do is we just cut the top off of the bag, the food bag, and then drop the food bag down inside. And that way you don't have to worry about, if you're I can put another bag of food down in here, and I don't have to worry about putting new stuff on top and old stuff on the bottom, if we just leave them in the bag. But you can use this same bucket that you can get at any, I think we got this at PetSmart. You can get them at most pet stores. It's a little on the expensive side, but if you're looking for something that is food grade with a screw spin top that you can throw a couple oxygen absorbers into, and use that to store a large quantity of beans, flour, or rice, that's a great idea. And it's readily available to you. Is Sue here? Hi, Sue Me. Welcome. Glad you made it home safe. Okay, then he talks about where to store it. So he talks specifically about stockpiling and prepping in small spaces, overcoming urban challenges. So yeah, that's a constant thing. Like I said, if I could move my computer, I would show you that. Well, I'm trying to reach now, but underneath here we have all of our water. It's basically underneath this Ekbunk group. So we've got water under here. We've got the number 10 cans under our bed. It's crazy, and so you look for places to put things. Is how it really becomes. Sue and I were talking about this earlier. And I've got 1/5 of an acre, and it's 1,400 square foot house, and she's got something a lot bigger, a lot more expansive, and she can take care of a lot more stuff than I can. As a matter of fact, Helen was telling me that the garage needs to be straightened out because I'm looking like a hoarder. So under bed storage, I told you we've got all of our number 10 cans underneath the bed. Wall-mounted shelving. I don't like wall-mounted shelving unless you have the support capabilities to support the weight. So the very first house we bought, I asked them to reinforce. At first, it was 2x6 construction for the frame, And then I asked them to reinforce behind some certain areas where I knew I was going to have things hung up on the walls. And so I could do that while we were in the building, in the construction stage. Our second house was a model home that we bought. Our third home we built ourselves, but it was a larger house. And so I wasn't worried about putting things on the walls except in the garage. And then I also decked the upstairs, the area above the garage, put down 1/2-inch planking plywood so that I could store some stuff up top. Don't do that, especially in Texas. The things that I put up above the attic ended up. I didn't have any prepping stuff, but some of the other stuff ended up being melted or whatever. It gets extremely hot up there. Do not do that. I found out the hard way. Chest shelving, furniture with storage. That's always great. I'm watching these YouTube things where they have these innovative storage containers, that are multifunctional, and you open it from the top and it's a bookshelf, but it turns into a table, and oh my gosh, it's unbelievable. Absolutely, Caitlin. That's you and I are thinking exactly the same way. Thank you. Creative redundancy. Good. Welcome. It's good to see you. Let me see who else. Anybody else? Tammy Harder. I think that's called a gamma lid, but I'm not 100% sure. I think gamma lids can also be another form, but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not up on all the terminology. Okay, so alternative energy. Let me see here. Essentials for small space, non-perishable foods, opt for canned goods. Of course, and we go through this quite often. Canned goods, your longer term bulk items like flour, rice, beans, other legumes. You want to have some freeze-dried foods. You want to have some MREs. You want to have a wide variety of things so that you can use them for different purposes. Water storage, of course, becomes important. Hygiene products. One of the things I recommend you do, and we're still pretty close to the beginning of the year, get yourself a nice planner, okay? And then every time you replace something, whether it be a jar of shampoo, or a jar of, we use body soap, or a bottle of water, body soap, or a bottle of hand soap at the sink, or you replace a case of toilet paper, or paper towels or something like that. Make note of it. Keep a record. And then after 1 month, you should be able to project, well, if I use, maybe toothpaste would be the wrong example, because it takes me about 3 to 4 months to go through a tube of toothpaste. But if I go, well, we can use that. If I go through a tube of toothpaste in 3 months, then I know that in a post-apocalyptic world, if I need 3-year supply, then I need 4 per year, or 12 tubes in storage, in order to have an adequate supply of whatever it is that we're talking about. In this case, having toothpaste. You can do the same thing with the other things. Now, I did my survey on this. Oh gosh, Bob, probably it was before COVID. So it had to be 2018, 2017, somewhere around in there. And I was surprised at the amount of stuff that we have to use on a regular basis, and that I'm going to have to store for long-term purposes. Just unbelievable. Medical supplies. The bad thing about medical supplies, however, is that they do expire, probably faster than some of the other stuff. Cooking gear. Make sure you have cooking gear that's capable of being used on an open flame outdoors, not a stove top type of thing. Also, that you can use for an oven, like a Dutch oven or something like that. Get a camp Dutch oven, not the one that you use for your stove. And other ways of cooking. If SHTF happens tomorrow, that gas stove is not going to do me any good. I won't be able to use it. There won't be any natural gas coming through the pipes, I assume. So I'm going to have to come up with another way of cooking. And I was on a prepper Facebook group, and they were talking about it. When the SHTF happens, they're going to bring in their white gas Coleman stoves and cook in the house. Please don't do that. Please, if you're going to cook in the house, make sure you only use appliances that have been approved for indoor use, and that's typically going to be butane, not propane, but butane. You don't want to use white gas. You don't want to use propane inside the house. You don't want to use some of the sternos. They produce carbon monoxide. Make sure you follow all the safety stuff. Get a decent carbon monoxide detector. I keep my carbon monoxide detector close by. Make sure you have a decent. Oops. I'm knocking everything over. My carbon monoxide detector sits on top of my Geiger detector or Geiger counter. Make sure that you also have a fire extinguisher. Those are going to be extremely important to you if you do anything in the indoors. Saw somebody else new come in. Creative Redundancy, good evening. Welcome. Cats and Prepping, good evening. Look for alternative energy sources. I am totally impressed. I now have 24 panels, and of course, I don't know how many cells there are on each panel, but each cell produces half a volt. And so right now, I'm going to check my in-phase report for what happened today. It's going to take a while to load because here we go. It came up. So today I produced 28.95 kilowatt hours, and I used 11.85. So I sold 16.77 back to the grid, and my battery is at 100% charged. I only had to replace 14 watt hours to the battery as far as what just kind of soaked off. So make sure you have plans on how are you going to have alternative fuel, alternative energy. When I was younger and first got into this, and my next door neighbor was the civil defense warden for the block, he was building a small cinder block fallout shelter in his backyard. That's what got me into prepping during the Cold War, during the Cuban Missile Crisis. But he had basically a bicycle pedals on a generator. And so the way we were going to have alternative power in case of a nuclear attack was somebody had to be there sitting there riding the bicycle 24 hours a day. And that was going to operate the pump, and the pump would take the air in from the outside through the HEPA filter so that we didn't get any fallout inside the shelter. And then anything that was residual over that would power some 12-volt lights, because this was all 12-volt system. And so the options today compared to where we were in 1962, unbelievable. Just fantastic advances. Make sure you have a plan for how you're going to get alternative sources of power. And, a solar system with like a Jackery 1000 or something like that, great thing to have. And you can always use that, especially if you have something like a CPAP, or you have some other kind of electromechanical device that you need for medicinal purposes. You definitely want to make plans for that. Okay, transients and mobility. Make sure that you opt for lightweight and stackable, especially if you're older like I am. That's one of the reasons why you don't see me with the Reliant 6-gallon water jugs. Instead, I use the 3.5-gallon water bricks. Remember that water is 8 pounds per gallon. So those Reliant 6-gallon jugs, if I want to stack them up on something, that's 48 pounds that I get to do a bench press basically with, and lift it up there and put it up there. On the other hand, 3.5-pound water brick is going to be closer to around 28 pounds. So I think that's right. 3 times 8 is 24 plus half of 8 is 4. So about 28 pounds. So I can lift that up and I can stack those. I have a better opportunity to stack those. Take those things into consideration. Also take that into consideration when you are storing stuff. You want to put your heaviest stuff on the bottom. You also want to put your stuff on the bottom when you're storing anything that has a potential to leak. So you don't want to put your water up top and then have your freeze-dried foods that are impermeable packaging underneath, because if there's a leak, you just lost all your food. Or it can also rust cans. Make sure that in urban settings, community resources and cooperation are invaluable. He goes into forming a prepper group and making sure you're in alliance with other prepper groups, so that people are working together. Optimizing space in larger homes, shelving stations, shelving units, clear containers. I love clear containers, but I also I got from online shipping labels, a big coil, a round coil of shipping labels, and then I can take those shipping labels and put them on the outside of any box or clear box that I put into my storage or my pantry. So, for example, I just put a brand new box into the pantry now, and I've got to figure this one out. In my secondary pantry, I'm lifting the new, the stuff I got in my pantry haul, last prepper pantry haul, and I put it on top. And I need to put that newer stuff on the bottom. But anyhow, I use those white labels. I can sit here, and then I use my Sharpie, and I write those labels, and then I can just put that label on the box, and I know exactly what's in that box, so that I don't have to go looking too far. Anything you can get on a roller is fantastic, especially if you need to move things. One thing that is not pointed out in the book, and it always hits me when we talk about temperature control. Remember, temperature control is only good until the day that we lose power, because all the electromechanical items that you currently have of maintaining temperature control in your home basically go away the day we lose power. So air conditioning, and I know that my solar system can only produce 120. It cannot produce 220. So all air conditioning systems are out, the big ones outside are 240 or 220. I'm sorry, are 220. So I know my solar system cannot power those. So I purchased a wall plug-in system of Black & Decker that's 110. Helen's very sensitive to heat, so I'm going to have one room that's going to be a cool room. She'll be in that room. We'll plug that Black & Decker cooler in that room. It happens to be our master bedroom. Then I can do the discharge hose and put it into the shower stall. And that way the discharge hose is discharging any condensation, and we don't have to worry about a puddle of water or anything like that. Don't want to drink that condensation water either. It's not something you want to store for drinkable, potable water. Make sure you're doing a good rotation system. Different people do it different ways. I got into the habit a long time ago of not putting the date that it expires, because everything has different ways of saying that they expire or best buy. And so what I do is I just kind of eyeball it, and I put on the day I put it into my pantry. So it's consistent, whether it's a 5-pound bag of rice or a case of pinto beans, or a case of Wolf Brand chili, or a can of corn. They all have the exact same way that I'm putting them into storage. They all get and what I actually do is I actually put the month before. I don't know if you've noticed that on my pantry hauls, but typically if it's before the 15th of the month, then I always put the previous month, because I assume that it's been on the shelves at the store for at least a week or two, and it may have been somewhere else in transit or whatever for a week or two. So I always put it 1 month earlier until the 16th of the month, and then I put it on to the current month. Yeah, we're going to have here, Friday is going to be in the 60s, and Monday is going to be in the teens, is what they're saying. And today we have the luxury of looking at it that way too, Theoxerus. You're absolutely correct. Back then, that's all we had. So, is that or nothing. But nowadays we have a lot better options. And actually, the bicycle pedal power generators that they have currently are far more effective and efficient than what we had back in the 60s. So I would probably not be that concerned with it, but I would take a look at making sure that I had both wind and a wind turbine and solar. Because the one thing I found out in 2021 was when your panels are covered with ice and the sky is gray, you don't produce any electricity. And even with our normal consumption and everything here, we went 3 days on the batteries, and then on the fourth day, the batteries were gone, and they didn't recharge until we got back on the rotating. So we got 4 hours out of every 12. We were on the rotating system for our power company. But the good thing is those 4 hours of rotating on the power grid were enough to charge my battery so that I was now 24 hours with electricity. And it was in the middle of the winter, so we didn't need the air conditioner, so we were doing fine. Mother Earth Garden Club, welcome. And I see you're saying you're going to have terrible weather. Sumi, put up your weather prediction. I think that's probably about the same as hers. But welcome. Always great to see you. Thank you, Scott, for putting those links in for people's channels. Strongly encourage you to support each other and follow and subscribe to the other channels that Scott is putting up there. Have an emergency planning system. Include what you're going to take with you if you have to bug out. Okay. I am 99.5% hunker down. I'm 0.5% bug out. Okay. And the reason is because I've got power here. I've got a water collection system here. I've got my garden in the backyard for long-term sustainability. I've got my stuff here. I've got my defenses established. I know how I'm going to defend the property. I've got my neighbors with whom I'm well worked. We've got it all figured out. Why would I leave that unless I absolutely had to? Speaking of water, make sure you know it's going to be a top priority. How are you going to collect it? How are you going to store it? How are you going to purify it? I have 2 drip water filtration systems. I forget their names. They're Berkey clones. And then I bought the Berkey filters, and evidently Berkey filters has had a problem. I don't know. But I have these 2 clones, and so they produce 3.5 gallons over the course of 8 hours. So I figured, well, I need 7 gallons every 8 hours, so I'm going to put the 2 of them in one area, and I'm going to have 7 gallons every 8 hours, or that's going to give me about 21 gallons a day. Now then, there's just the 2 of us, right? So the 2 of us with 21 gallons a day, that means that we can, and I figure we'll probably use about 6 gallons. So we have excess water that we can use now for our group here in the neighborhood and keep them provided with a little bit of water as well. So we're probably going to do a little bit of an exchange. The other thing that I'm very happy with is that I've told them that if they have coolers, what I will do, and this will not keep your frozen foods frozen. Please don't think that. Frozen is below 0 Fahrenheit. And cool is between 0 Fahrenheit and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. That's considered just the cool zone as far as food handlers. So if you're using ice, that's going to keep it in the cool zone, not in the frozen zone. Dry ice is necessary for the frozen zone. But what I've told my neighbors is, bring me a bottle of water, okay? And I will have, as long as I have power and as long as my solar system's producing it, I can put a bottle of water per family in our group in my freezer overnight and freeze it. And that way you'll have something to keep your other stuff cool during the daytime. So you can use that if you want. You can melt it and use it to cool down drinks, whatever you want. But I'm going to keep my neighborhood provided with 1 bottle of frozen water per day. Rainwater harvesting, he talks about. I have the system. I ought to show you that someday. I have a 450-gallon tank here. I have a 55-gallon water tank over here. I've told my neighbors that the 55-gallon over here is theirs. They can tap into it anytime that they need to. Hygiene products, medical supplies, we talked about those. Manual can opener. This is something I think is really critical. Most people don't realize until it's too late. Number 10 cans have a deeper lip than does a normal pantry can or a shelf can. Okay. So if you try to use one of those manual knob turning can openers to open a number 10, that flange that does the cutting does not go down deep enough to where it's going to engage the top of and cut that number 10 can seal. You need one with a deeper cut in it. So specifically look for and purchase, if you have number 10 cans, purchase a number 10 can opener. Or the other option is, and we have a lot of these around the house, the safe can opener, and that's the one that actually cuts from the side, and that way you can reuse the lid, the seal as a lid. But either one of those two, either a deeper can opener for your number 10 cans or a safety can opener, side opener. Let me catch up with your comments here. Will we care for you out? We worry about you, Sumi, out of caring for you. So just understand that that's a good thing. We do care about you, so that's why we worry about you. Yes, and you can do the same thing with the reusable freezer packs. It accomplishes the same thing as the water bottles. If they want to bring me those, I'll freeze those too. The good thing about this is you can consume it in the summer. So if you're looking for something cold water, you can pour that in with your other drinks and mix it in and have a little bit of cold water to enjoy. And whereas, the other ones, I don't know, I guess you could. I don't know about the sanitation aspect of it, but you could take those freezer packs and just drop them down into a bucket of water. But I don't know. I probably would be averse to doing that. Hand cranked appliances. I just recently got a hand cranked egg beater. Can't believe how much they cost nowadays. I was looking for them I went to several Goodwills, could not find one. And so I could not find one, and so I finally ordered one on Amazon. 2 digits in the dollars for a hand cranked egg beater. I also got a hand cranked drill, but that's not cooking. That's for dental work. No, not really. That's for other work. But look for hand crank appliances. I got one that's a hand crank stirrer. So it's basically a blender so that I can make mayonnaise or something in a post-apocalyptic world. What else have I gotten? I got a hand cranked dryer or spinner to get the water out of our clothes when we wash. But just start thinking on a daily basis. What are all the different electrical appliances that I use that I need to replace with a hand crank or manual system? A typical one might be, we've got a Keurig machine, and then I've got my 12-cup coffee maker, brown coffee maker, German BRAUN. And so if we go down, we can probably still use those with our solar system. Might not want to use, I think Helen would probably die without her Keurig, but I probably would not want to use my 12-cup coffee maker. So I might want to either use a French press or a pour-over system or even a percolator. So I have an old camp percolator. I have a couple camp percolators. So I'll probably start a fire in the backyard. It probably might be easier to find wood or charcoal to percolate some coffee than it will be to find power for my coffee maker. Now, another thing you might want to do is once you make the coffee in that percolator, I'm sure everybody's had camp coffee that's gotten burned, gotten scorched. Does not taste good at all. So one of the things that I have is I have a couple air pots, and the air pots, once you open it up and pour in. So what I do with my brown, my coffee pot in the morning is I take half of my pot of coffee that I've just made and I pour it into my air pot, and that gets the air pot warm and gets everything done. I pour my first cup of coffee out of there, and then I drink my coffee. When I get done with that cup of coffee, then I go back over to the coffee pot and I pull the half pot that's in the coffee maker out and pour that half pot into the air pot. Now you've already kind of warmed that up, so you've pre-seasoned it, let's say. So that's going to help it keep a little bit longer. I typically get about 24 hours worth of warm coffee out of one pot in my air pot. So I can drink those 12 cups of coffee that I make. And actually, two 6-ounce cups. This is a 12-ounce mug. So it says 12, but it's actually 6 cups of coffee in my vocabulary. So that'll last me right at 24 hours. However, if you're trying to keep guards up, awake at night, in the middle of the night, you're going to make sure you have plenty of hot air pots that they can draw from as they need to stay awake, get that caffeine and stay awake and alert. Oh, he talks about manual coffee maker next. Manual food processor, yeah, I got that. Manual grain mill, I do not have. Mortar and pestle, I don't have. Manual egg beater, that's the mixer I told you about that I got on Amazon. Hand cranked radio, that's this right here. I've tried a couple things with it. I'm not that impressed with it, to be honest with you. I'll probably use my rechargeable batteries. This has the solar recharger here, and I've left it out in the yard for 2 days. And well, I guess it might help if I brought the antenna up. But anyhow, so far I've not been that impressed with the charge that you get off the solar system. Let's see what band I'm on. Let's go to the weather band. There we go. Yeah, it's just not that effective of a charge as far as getting it onto the solar system. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably turn it on to the batteries. It takes 3 double A's to power this. It's also got a hand crank here. If I can remember. Oh, here it is. It's over in this end. So it's got the hand crank here. And now you have to crank away for quite a while to get a charge on it, is what I found. I mean, it works, but it's an awful lot of effort for what you're doing. I would say probably in an emergency, yeah, it's probably going to be a great backup. I like my little USB rechargeable. This one here, I get a lot more out of it than I do the hand crank and everything else off of that one. And then, of course, in case you don't know, with ham radios, they're all 12-volt DC, every one of them. So you have to have a power converter if you're going to run it off of home power, which is 110 volt. And so you have to convert that from 110 to 12. So that's another thing is the good thing about that is you can hook series up and you can hook battery packs up and run it off of a car battery if you need to. For those of you who have Baofeng UV5Rs, if you go on Amazon, there is a battery power pack for the Baofeng UV5R. And you can put in, I believe, 4 AA batteries and power it the same as you can with the lithium ion battery. And it costs maybe $18 for that little battery pack, but it does convert it so that you can use AA batteries, and that's something that's going to be very, very handy for you in a post-apocalyptic world. It talks about mechanical kitchen timers, and that's why I'm working with my alarm clocks and trying to get them straightened out. A manual juicer and hand crank flashlight. Backup power sources, generators, solar power, battery banks, car power inverters, hand crank devices, PTOs, and things like that. Alternative cooking methods, camp stoves, do not use them inside. Wood burning stoves, if you don't have the flue and everything for it, please don't use that inside. Most of these are not going to be indoor use, okay? Charcoal grills, solar ovens, camping cookware, fire pit grill, all that outside, okay? Don't don't take a chance of getting carbon monoxide poisoning or anything else in your home. Let me see. Don't forget your pets. Please don't forget your pets. And that pretty much takes care of that chapter. So next week, we'll be talking about meal planning and basics from your food stockpile, crafting harmony, 90 days of flourishing pantry provisions. So things you can do so that you don't have stagnation from tasting and everything else. Wow, really? And one of the things I'm really looking into is the wind turbine because I think that sometimes during an ice storm when my solar panels are covered with ice and snow and it's gray outside, then there's always going to be that wind, the wind chill and everything else. So probably be the backup to the backup was where that is. Yeah, you're probably talking about one of those ones you put on the mount on the bench, and then it's got this big handle that comes down. You stab it into the number 10 can, and you crank it. And as you crank it, it automatically rotates the can at the same time. Love those. I don't have one, but I love it. We used to use those in the mess hall, and we also used them in Boy Scout camp. Let me see where we are. Oh, yeah, great thing. Creative redundancy, great reminder is that if we're going to be doing it. And so we have that original solar dryer for clothing, and it's called the clothesline. And it was a combination solar wind dryer. You put the clothes out on the drying line, and combination of sun and wind got them dry in just a couple of hours. French press is great. Absolutely. I French press. So the ways that I have a couple French press. I have probably 3 camp percolators. I have probably 2 or 3 pour overs. There's also a little egg that I found. I haven't tried it, but it's good. They say it's good for either coffee or tea. So I would imagine with coffee, you're going to probably want a very coarse grind. Fill up this little egg. It's on a chain, and you dunk it in and immerse it in your cup and just seep it for a while. But I also remember that beans last almost as long. Beans are probably going to be your longer lasting, other than the instant coffee. That never expires. Beans will last your longest. And then after that, then ground or anything like that. So if you're going to grind your own, that's another important one that you have to have is manual, is going to be a coffee grinder. Now, and that can be a combination tool as well. You can use the coffee grinder to grind some of your other spices. Okay, make sure you clean it if you don't like spice taste in your coffee. But then if you get a larger mill press or something that you're using for oats or wheat or wheat berries or anything like that, I guess you could use that for coffee as well. But I've got my mother-in-law, as a matter of fact, and gosh, we were just talking about that this evening. She passed away in 2009. And my mother-in-law gave me a coffee grinder for my birthday one year. Really nice one. And but anyhow, yeah, I don't know why, but the one that's popping into my mind is pop fizz fizz. Oh, what a relief it is! But that's Alka-Seltzer. That's not. I can't. Was it Folgers? Gosh, I can't remember. Anyhow, I have never taken caffeine tabs, Utah Mike. That's probably a very good suggestion. I do know that one of the things we have talked about is that we probably will just do 1 hour guard shifts, and everybody will be interrupted at some point during the night. And so the problem then becomes one of, if you're just doing a 1 hour guard shift, do you take a stimulant to wake you up to pull your guard shift, and then it becomes more difficult to go back to sleep when you complete your guard shift. Whereas if you take a stimulant to wake you up for a 2 hour guard shift, then the chances are that you would get a little bit more sleep, continuous sleep, and you might be able to get some of that caffeine or nicotine or anything out of your system so that you could sleep. But sleeping and sleep deprivation, basically during guard duties in a post-apocalyptic world, is something you've got to take into consideration. How often your shift's going to be. What are the ramifications if you do a shorter shift and longer sleep versus a longer shift and a shorter sleep? You got to get those things figured out ahead of time. And people have got to kind of be committed to it. They have to have a say in whether they would rather have a 2 hour shift and know that they're going to get 6 hours of continuous sleep afterwards, or a 1 hour shift, guard shift, awake, and then 3 hours of sleep afterwards. Those are tough decisions that you got to make, and then be open to change, because I guarantee you, whatever decision you start with, people aren't going to like it. They're going to want to change it. That's for absolute sure. And I am just now getting into Mother Earth Garden Club. I am just now getting into doing herbs and everything. I'm starting off with, help me. What am I starting off with? Basil. I'm starting off with basil. And so we shall see. We shall see. I don't know how to grow them, let alone dry them yet. And Sumi's doing a fantastic job with her indoor garden, and I'm begging her to please teach me. I have I have a black thumb, a black nose. Anything I touch dies, and so I just need somebody to teach me how to be a good gardener. I am kind of jealous. I think Triple G has a fairly good garden up north of here a little ways, and I need to learn from him. That's another conversation that Helen and I were having in the car. The senior group got together for lunch today, and so we drove way out to nowhere, and they had tonkatsu, a tonkatsu sandwich, which is the Korean version of a German schnitzel, but it's a breaded pork cutlet sandwich with bulgogi sauce and sesame seeds, and it was phenomenal. And on the way back, we were talking about exercise and how we're going to get rid of all these carbs and everything else. And one of the things I think, we worry about exercise and being in shape. When it happens, the manual labor that you will be conducting will get you in shape. You'll either get in shape or die. And there's going to be an awful lot of hand grinding, an awful lot of cranking, churning, carrying firewood, carrying buckets of water, pouring water into the gravity filtration system, storing it, moving boxes so you can get to the foods that you want. You're going to be doing more than enough exercise. And unfortunately, the bad part about that is exactly what you're mentioning, which is that when you do it manually, it's going to take more time because you don't have the same cyclic speed that an electric crank, pump, or anything like that has. So yes, it's going to take more time, but it is going to give you more muscle. That's for sure. One of the things that I can almost guarantee you is when SHTF happens, at the end of the day, you're not going to be looking for fun and games and card games. You're going to be so worn out from all of the physical exertion that you're going to be doing just to stay alive, that you'll be just like the settlers of the 19th century. You'll come in, you'll eat dinner, and you'll plop to bed. And that's going to be you'll go to bed, wake up, Same thing all over again. And that is the whole reason why having a Sabbath became so important. It was because the life of a homesteader, the life of a farmer, the life of a rural person was sun up to sundown, you're working. And so there needed to be a little bit of time. And so that's why they said, minimize the amount of work that you're doing on the Sabbath. You still have to milk. If you stop milking for one day, it's terrible. If you don't collect the eggs for one day, if you don't feed your animals for one day, if you don't water them, if you don't tend for them, you have problems. So those things that absolutely have to be done, do. But weeding, cultivating, all those kinds of things, avoid those on Sundays so that you can get a little bit of a rest from the mundane. So Tammy got a whole box full of great stuff. Huh. Is anybody else having that problem? Here's a little secret that I just recently learned, like in the last 6 months, Mother Earth, and that is that they have now filters for the percolators. Okay, so it's a little circle of brown filter with a hole in it, and you can just drop that down, so it covers those little holes at the bottom of the percolator, that sit in the basket on the pipe, and so that way you get a little bit better filtered coffee. Another thing you want to do is make sure that when you use a percolator, use a little bit coarser grind. You don't want to use the standard medium grind that you get in the cans at the store. If you do, make sure you use a filter. Let me see. Thank you, Darlene. Yes, if you would, that would be a fantastic help if you'd hit the like button. There's a site that'll tell you your wind or solar potential. My winds are 80 or nothing, mostly under 7. If you find that site, Feoxers, if you'd share that would be phenomenal. Yeah, so that one I was talking about with the coffee is basically a tea ball. I don't have that much beans. What I am doing now, however, nowadays is I'm buying more beans than I am ground coffee. So I'm focusing on beans now instead of ground. But I'm also I have an awful lot of instant. And I think instant's going to be the way to go in a post-apocalyptic world. Don't care for it as much as I do the others, but I mean, it's coffee. That's what I lived on out in the field with the Army. And that's just the way it is. There's another trick, and I think it's after you have finished your coffee, while the grounds are still on the surface, if you take your fingers and dip them into cold water and sprinkle cold water on the top of the hot water in the pot, that will cause the grounds to settle. I think that's the secret. Cowboy Kent Rollins, I think, is the one who said that. So, yeah, so Feoxerus is all set up. He's got it taken care of. That's great. Mount Hagen instant coffee is fantastic. I wholeheartedly agree. I have probably 10 boxes of it. A buddy of mine from Fort Huachuca, he was a counterintelligence agent, and he has a website, Gray Wolf Prepping. He's still down in the Fort Huachuca area in Sierra Vista, Arizona. His thing is he's a lone wolf type person, and he does ultra lightweight bug out bags. But you can find his website, Gray Wolf Prepping. But he's the one that turned me on to Häagen-Dazs or Mount Hagen instant coffee. And yes, you're absolutely right. That's a great coffee. Maxwell House, I think, is the one that had the percolator, right? I think Maxwell House commercial. Oh, is Jim here? Hi, Jim. Welcome. Good evening. Okay, so I think we're pretty much caught up. The unfortunate thing about regular aspirin is that it's a blood thinner. And so, for us older people, it does things like puts these little skin blemishes on you. It thins out your skin and you get these bruises real easy and blood splotches and everything else. And, but, Jim, take care. Happy you joined us for a second or two. And okay, Theoxorus, I'm going to count on you. Send me an email. Let's get together. You can teach me. As a matter of fact, I will show you something here. Let me see. So, no, I'm not going to invite. What I want to do is present. Present, share screen. And yes, I want to share screen. This is what I'm looking at right now. So I'm looking at the School of Botanical Arts and Sciences. So how to grow and then use different herbs and homeopathic things so that I can grow and fix my own medicinal herbs and things like that. Oops, I hit the wrong button. I want to stop. I hit in stream instead of stop sharing. That would be terrible, wouldn't it? Oh, wow. Faxorus, thank you. I'm going to save that. Let me save that. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. So remember, people, that there is a special warning out from the from NSA, not CIA, FBI, and DHS. And you can go to IC, what is that? IC3.gov/PSA. I've got that. We'll just do it one more time. How's that? So this is where you can go to get a copy of that internet warning about possible terrorist attacks in the United States, and to be aware of that. And so please keep your head on a swivel. Please don't go too far away from home without a way of getting home. Get home bag without some sort of protection, and just stay away from large crowds. I think that's your safest bet. So with that, the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. I've got it kind of memorized. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So, I still have not put out my prep pantry haul for Saturday. Yeah, I have it. It's in draft form. And I said, I don't want to offend people. But one of the people in RCIA gave me a 3rd edition Catholic study Bible. And I got into at the very end of the tape, and I got into a little bit of a history of the Bible, like why the Catholic Bible that was established in 385 has more books than does the Protestant Bible. And so there's a little bit of history there about the canonization of the Bible, and when the Protestants split off, they kind of did their own thing. But I didn't want to put out the pantry haul because I was afraid that with that lesson on the Bible that it would offend people. So quickly, give me a real quick thumbs up or thumbs down, or put it out, or don't worry about it, or yeah, probably best not to go there. And I'll take your advice on whether or not to put that out. In the meantime, remember that we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together. Please be safe, kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the key. Well, I don't see any recommendations one way or the other, so I'm going to go ahead and say I probably won't put it out. Okay, take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh, Utah Mike says, oh, no, we got some positives. Okay, I will put it out tomorrow morning. So look for last Saturday's Pepper Pantry Haul to be out tomorrow morning. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.